I went through, challenges and stuff, but the one of the key things is there are always good people around you. You
Yeah.
just gotta recognize them, right? So you can be your leaders, you can be some people who work for you. I mean, they are out there. So that's one thing, and the second thing is you gotta develop future leaders because it's not all about you. This is about future generation. It can be your company, it can be country, it can be the world. So those are things that I
Where we aim to inspire you to embrace your inner courage and live your best audacious life ever. I'm thrilled to have you here with us today and taking a moment out of your busy day to join us. So much appreciation and thanks for spending the time. Our mission is simple, and it's to provide you with the insights, inspiration, and tools you need to recognize your potential and the potential in others. Together, we'll explore the powerful themes of leadership, emotional intelligence, and personal growth, all designed to ignite the audacity that's inside of all of you. Now, today I am excited to introduce our guest we've got James Shin joining us. James is an accomplished author and seasoned leader with over 25 years of experience in diverse roles across the industry. He's the author of the new book, The Leader's Soul, where he shares his reflections on leadership and the importance of nurturing future leaders, and that's so key. And James, he's made that his mission, which is wonderful. One of the things that he's focused on is really empowering young professionals, wanting them to unlock their full potential and to provide guidance that helps them navigate their journeys. His insights are particularly relevant today as we discuss the crucial role of intentional leadership, especially when it comes to developing future leaders. We'll also talk about the importance of emotional intelligence and fostering strong team relationships, and also the power of reflection as far as it relates to personal growth. As we dive into our conversation, we're going to explore how recognizing and nurturing potential in others is not just beneficial for the effective leadership, but essential. Much like a sailor navigating the open sea, a good leader must steer their crew towards uncharted waters, using the experience and insights to guide others towards growth and discovery. Mistakes are the waves that crash against our ship. They can feel daunting, but always offer valuable lessons if we approach them with a mindset of learning and walking away with something. So it's going to be great. It's great to have James here today, and I really appreciate the wisdom that you're sharing with us, and I'm certain our listeners will appreciate it too. So without any further ado, let's turn to the conversation with James. Enjoy. Hey, James, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for taking the time to be here. Thank you. This is cool.
Hey, thank you for having me, Audley. It's an honor,
Thank
and
you.
I'm so excited to be on your, podcast. And I listened to, some of your episodes. I mean, I was amazed, the range of, topics is so diverse and insightful.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed it. And one particular one that I really liked is Unlocking Leadership Potential by James, Robbins. That was actually very good, and
Yeah.
it resonated deeply with me. So thank you.
Good. No, well, I appreciate that, and I'll send Mr. Robbins your regards as well too, because he was a big part of that. But yeah,
Hey, by the way,
yeah.
have you had, climbed with him
So I
yet?
haven't. So we didn't make the climb. Only I took ill a little bit, and so because I was ill, I didn't do the training I needed to do. So I got to revisit that. So thank you for mentioning
Okay.
that, because
All
I'm
right.
supposed to be climbing a mountain. I didn't make it to the top yet, but there are lots of mountains to climb. I just haven't done the one we talked about, but that's going
Right,
to be
right,
on my
right.
radar for sure.
Okay,
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Um, I mean, again, the topic of leadership, and if you heard, it's probably what I enjoy speaking about because of the level of impact and reach you can have on individuals. You are an author, right? You've written the Leader's Soul, which we'll touch on and delve into a little bit and talk about the work and the reflections, because one of the themes that that you raised, which I very much resonates with me, is the idea that we all have that leadership potential within each and every single one of us. There's no question in my mind about that. And so it was very I was gonna say enlightening, but it's heartwarming actually to hear you reflect on that piece too. So thank you for that. Maybe as a starting point, I'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to our audience, to talk about the work that you've done and what's got you to the point that you're at now.
Yeah, so you can tell by my southern accent. I'm originally from the South, South Korea.
Yeah.
So I came to the States a long time ago for my PhD at Penn State, and then I got into the industry. So I spent more than 25 years in the industry, and I was fortunate enough to have very diverse functional roles along the way. And then also I had an opportunity to lead in a people. So that's where I learned about, people leadership. And then I started my own consulting last year. And then I wanted to share what I experienced, especially with the young professionals. So that's the reason I wrote in a book. So maybe we can talk about that more, later. But life is in a journey of, continuous learning and growth. I experienced, significant, changes, challenges along the way, like moving from South Korea to the, States
Mm.
and, getting new assignments, moving to different places, countries, and stepping into entirely different, functional roles, working with, global people. And so I learned a lot from those experiences. So,
You know what? And I'm really glad that you made that point about your experiences because, you know, I really believe, we're individuals made up of a collection of experiences, and
mhm,
those experiences help shape and frame our understanding of the world, how we relate to it, how we move through the world, all these things that experiences do, but they also influence our leadership ability, right? And what
right,
we, right?
right.
And so, for example, if you if every experience that you ever had was with leaders who weren't effective, who leaders that were who weren't connecting with individuals on the right level, or leaders that, quite frankly, weren't. I'm shying away from saying bad leaders, but that weren't doing
Mhm.
the job to the fullest, having the type of impact that its fullest potential. If that's your experience, then that potentially can shape how you move through the world or your approach to leadership, right? You can either
Right.
adopt what you see or saw or experienced, or you can want to do different because of the impact it had on you. And so I'm really glad that you made that point about our experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the one of the key things from my experiences is people. Right.
Mhm.
So I went through challenges and stuff, but the one of the key things is there are always good people around you. You
Yeah.
just gotta recognize them, right? So you can be your leaders, you can be some people who work for you. I mean, they are out there. So that's one thing, and the second thing is you gotta develop future leaders because it's not all about you. This is about future generation. It can be your company, it can be country, it can be the world. So those are things that I learned, especially the situations that I had were sync or same situation. I mean, it sounds terrible, but
Right.
it was really good opportunity for me to learn, grow. Sometimes I made mistakes, but I learned from it, and so I want to share with again young professionals. So.
Yeah. So tell me what influenced you or made you decide to write the book, The Leader Soul.
So again, as I mentioned, moments ago, so what I experienced were like mostly sink or swim situations. So I
Mhm.
got through it, but like I learned and improved, developed, grew, and young professionals maybe they don't have to go through the same thing that I experienced. I just want to share with them, and
Mhm.
then they can learn from it by leading it, reading it,
Right.
and then they can practice in real life. So that was the reason for the book. So
One of the things that I saw you reflect on, you talked about, the greatest life lessons. They don't come from the books or the boardrooms. I'm wondering if you have an experience or a concrete example of a lesson that you learned that you can share and kind of and left sort of an important leadership lesson.
So, one of the things probably early on in my leadership roles was I was getting an assignment in Corinth, Mississippi, in a small town in
Okay.
Mississippi, about 15,000 people. So I was going down there as a plant manager and supply chain manager,
Hmm.
dual role. And my leadership actually picked me to, send there. But at the same time, there were some concerns, and I was not born in the States, going down to, deep south, and they didn't know how it would, work out. But I had in a confidence in a sense that, people are people. So I went there, worked with in my team and, other people as well. I mean, it was a fantastic experience. Again, the key lessons is, people are people. So it was great opportunity for me to grow further,
Hmm.
becoming a leader. So that's, one example that I can share.
Gotcha. Um, you know, an inherent part of leadership are difficult or challenging conversations.
Mhm.
Sometimes tough discussions have to have, and whether it's with the people that work with you directly or external stakeholders, what have you. Um, Suggestions of sort of best ways of approaching it, because I think that's where people sort of falter or stumble the most, right? Being able to have those difficult, hard conversations.
Right, exactly. And then also another thing is when you get into a role, and I look at that as a kind of a chessboard, meaning like you got to understand who those people are. So you
Hmm.
got to understand their strengths and opportunities to develop, and then you maximize that situation. So I compare that to being a chef or conductor. Being a chef, you got to understand all the ingredients,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
What they do, and then you mix them up and then create a best dish you can make. So in a sense, leadership role is like being a chef or conductor. So
Yeah, no, they certainly are, and that piece around knowing individuals, I think is key, and what the underlying element, which I think is really really important, is establishing relationships because
right,
when you're
absolutely.
right when you can establish relationships that are built in trust and honesty and openness and one that's that's positive, if you will, those difficult conversations not that they make them easier, but they do help
Right.
smooth them out a bit better.
Absolutely. So that's why I like the one-on-one meetings. Also get to know them.
Mhm.
So I like to know what they like outside their work, their family, and etc. Once you have that relationship, you can have that tough conversation. But then when you have that tough conversation, it's not personal. So you got to think about that purpose, why we're making this decision and etc. Then it's a better, not that it's not gonna be easy,
Sure. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
it's better, right?
Yeah.
So but also the I like that mountain analogy by the James Robbins. So when you climb yourself, it's different from being a guide, right? So being a leader is being a guide, right? So it's a completely, in a sense, different role. So
Yeah, no, it absolutely is, and I've been, and I've seen situations where, so let's say you work in an existing team or a company, let's say, and you get elevated to a leadership role. I've seen sometimes where people struggle making that distinction about the new job they have isn't the same as the old job, and that transition if not done properly, right, it could be very, very difficult if you're not aware of what's happening.
absolutely. That's also a leaders in a role. When you pick somebody for the role, and then you shouldn't pick somebody just based on the technical strength. They
Hmm.
gotta get the leadership element as well. Or you gotta understand where that person can improve to provide that support along the way. I think it's important as a leader as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One of the aspects that you identify that resonates with me, and it's actually it says it right in the subtitle of your book, reflections. Right, you say 52 reflections for unlocking your inner leader, and that reflection piece I think is very very important because there kind of needs to be a pause, so to speak, or you're stopping to kind of take a look back, and when you reflect, it's not always about what had happened. What had happened for sure is important, but it's what you can take from it. What was your role? How did you respond? There's aspects of this reflection piece that I think is so important. So can you talk about maybe the reflection process, and is it something that you do regularly? Do you take time for it? Do mark or carve out times of the day or the week that you do that? Like, what does that look like for you?
So I don't think I've got a structured, approach to it. And there are certain period in my career you just work, traveling and etc.
Sure.
And then at one point I realized that I'm hitting the wall and I need some break. And so I started working out again. And then looking at nature. So some of the hobbies that I have are like drawing and then taking pictures of nature and writing. And those actually hobbies give me an opportunity to reflect and think. But also related topic is you gotta have good mental and physical health. So
Mm,
without that, it's gonna be tough. So you gotta focus on that. And then kind of a related topic is nowadays, early in my career, and once you out of work, I mean, at each day, it's just tough to get on the computer, right? So it's a modem and etc. Now using cell phones like iPad, iPhone, you're connected all the time, which is a problem. So you should be able to disconnect. And at the end of the day, whatever, you gotta be very disciplined to disconnect from work. I think that's one of the key things that we got to
mm.
think about.
Create that separation.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's just a challenge, right? I mean,
Hmm.
we are one beings. We're not, this is the work oddly, and then this is the personal. Like we're all it's all one and the same. And so but I think that's even more important that we do have to find reasons to that disconnect that you spoke to.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Curious. You've got roots in South Korea. You are in corporate America, right? In this role, I'm wondering how your background has that influenced your leadership style, or how you maybe form your philosophies anyway. Has there been any influence from that
So
standpoint?
I think to me, leadership is an art as well.
Mm,
I'm a big proponent of diversity. Diversity is not about race and sex and etc. Diversity is about the your background, thoughts, and etc. So I've got many examples where diversity help the work stronger.
hmm
So my background, from South Korea, cultural background, my personality helped, situation, business get better. So I try to do the same thing. So when I work with global people, I try to understand their elements, why they're saying that, and why they're approaching this, and etc. It gets better. One example is early in my career, we are preparing for a big corporate, conference.
Okay.
And there's a HR team was supposed to come up with, team building exercise, and it wasn't going well. So, our leader picked me and another guy and tasked to develop, a team building exercise. And I'm from, South Korea, and the other person is, Midwest, white person. And we came up with, fantastic team building exercises, 3 days, using, Lego and their theme each day. I mean, it was a simple, in a sense, simple example,
hmm
but like that's a good example of utilizing the diversity. So,
Yeah, no, I think it's important. I think one of the keys around diversity is acknowledging that
right,
it
right,
exists,
right,
right? And within that, there's strengths. Like everyone has individual strengths that they bring to the table because of their diversity, right?
right,
And diversity isn't just where you're from culturally, right? It's a
right,
diversity of thought and perspectives and knowledge. All of these things come into play, and so part of I think what's very, very important is the environment that a leader creates that allows that inclusivity, but allows their freedom for people to freely share. Hey, I don't think that way, but here's why, and here's my perspective.
right. Absolutely. I mean, even, think about it, even in the United States and people from different regions, different background, they're all different.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
same within one country, right?
We talked earlier about balance. I'm curious about your viewpoint on, and certainly, listen, we understand business, the most important thing to business is the bottom line, but the people are always also important too. And you know, there certainly needs to be a balance to how we manage the people and how we manage the work because they are two different things. Any thoughts or suggestions on how to best do that for leaders?
So I think it's actually tough in a sense because like naturally, as a business leader, you think about profit, money,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But then if you do all those things, right, and then money will come later. So, for example, so transformation, corporate, America and world and companies do like transformation to get the bottom line, right?
Hmm.
But in the end, I mean, in essence, the key things are not bottom line. So the purpose of the transformation are creating values. Values doesn't mean the money, right? And the
Right.
second thing is engaging employees. And then third thing is developing future leaders. Once you do those three things, bottom line will come. But then again, like as a leader right now, we got to get profit. So it's just tough to get that thought through. But we got to step back and think about those key elements, how to get to the bottom line. So
Got you, got you, and yeah, and therein lies the unique challenge, right?
right.
Because both are important and both can't be ignored. In fact, they are supportive of one another. Like you need the people to do the work to influence your bottom line, but the bottom line, if the bottom line's not there, then there's no place for the people. So they're very much connected to the two.
Absolutely. And then also, sometimes, as a leader, you got to make short-term tough, decisions, right? You got to do it. So, remember, Kirby, Smart, Georgia, football, coach talk about, cost of leadership.
Hmm.
As a leader, you're making tough decisions but it can be a lonely place, but you got to do it. Now, again, you just can, but at the same time, you cannot ignore, big picture, right? So people, culture, and all that stuff. So,
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Setbacks and challenges are part of the journey. That's part of life, right? Like, I mean, it's not exclusive to leaders. It's what happens in life. I'm curious, what's the most important lesson that you've learned in your leadership journey after going through setbacks or failures?
and it comes down to, I think, people aspect.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't say those were, big mistakes, but along the way, I made the mistakes with, people. I should have done better with, this, particular individual.
Mhm.
And then it was painful, but it was a lessons learned, for me and
Mhm.
trying not to repeat that in the future. So, I mean, there is a saying, mistakes without lessons learned is a big mistake, right? So I learned, throughout the my career, especially people side. I mean, that's to me biggest mistakes that I made along the way, not the business decisions,
Mhm. And
and
that's
because it impacts that person, individual, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So.
yeah, yeah. And again, we just as we talked earlier, like the people are a big part of the work that's done. And so if you're impacting them negatively, then that I don't think you're fully fulfilling your role as a leader, right?
Right. And then another thing I'm going to bring up,
Sure.
what James, Robbins, said,
Okay.
your scorecard is actually the success of your people. I really like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. Because that speaks to if you can elevate people, right, to a higher level, then
Right.
you've done this important job as in terms of what you leader. So their success is your success. Right?
Exactly, exactly. But then some of the leaders try to, push down, their people
Hmm.
so that I mean, the person can, shine. But that's a big mistake. Your team's got to be successful so that you become successful. So.
What made you focus on young leaders? What was the motivation behind that for you?
So it's not that like I ignore the experienced professionals like me, but again, when I went through those experiences, I wish I had some people who gave me that kind of insights and
Mm,
stuff. So I just hope that the, young professionals, don't go through the same thing that I experienced, and hopefully they can learn from it, and so they can accelerate, their career. So that's why I said, young professionals,
Mhm.
but the book is for, everybody as well. So
So you're talking to a young James is what you're trying to do, right?
yeah, exactly, exactly. Who came from South Korea.
That's right. That's right. No, I love it. I love it. Um, I mean, on that, if you had, I don't know, we're having fun with this, but if you had a chance to, talk to your younger self and say, who you started in Korea and in this field, where it is, I think it was engineering is what you write at the
Yeah,
background,
engineering, industrial
right?
engineering. Yeah.
What would you tell them when it comes to like sort of growth and risk and balance? What would you tell them?
So the to me, like, hey James, take more, risks and experience, more. Early on, actually, I tried to be a little bit safer. My personality and culture aspect. But again, along the way, I learned,
Sure.
I took, more chances and, risks along the way. But initially, I was, I guess, being, safe. So, hey, James, take more, chances, be audacious, and they experience, more. And then, there is, Mark Twain, poem or like quote, and 20 years, from now, you're gonna be disappointed by things that you didn't do
Mhm.
than things you did, right? So, experiencing more as well. So,
It's interesting. If I would have talked to my younger self, and I've had this conversation many times, I think it's only fair I'll share. I would say to myself that I am enough. I think when I was younger, I second guessed myself. Confidence was kind of so there, and I didn't realize that what I had was incredible foundational pieces to do
mhm.
great things.
Right,
I always felt like there must be something else. Where else can I get it? And not that you can't pull in, well, recognize that like my starting point was I had the basic tools needed, and I thought I was lacking. And I remember, and again, as you go through life and you experience things, I got to a point where I was like, oh, wait a second, of course I can do
right,
that. Wait, what do you
right,
like
right,
all
right.
this stuff? But I don't, but I look back at my journey, I think it's still an important one for me to go through because
Mhm.
now I've reached where I am, and I realize that I have a greater, deeper appreciation for the things I always had, right?
Right.
Because unknowingly, I use them to get me to this point, not knowing,
Hmm.
hey, like it's kind of like if you got a toolbox, right? And you open it up and you got all these things at your disposal. I need a hammer. Well, I had the hammer the whole time. In fact, I was using it unknowingly and didn't know that I was using it, right? And so
Right, right.
that would be my conversation. Like, yeah, listen, the tools are at your disposal. You had enough. Keep going, kind of a thing. And so,
And I totally agree with you. That's again, that's another reason, for the book. And then there are a lot of, leadership books, out there. You read all those, but that becomes your library.
sure.
So you gotta pick, whatever you need, as you go, right? So again, just like you said, and this is toolbox or library,
Yeah,
and you probably have it. You just gotta pick it, right? So
that's it. That's it. So,
uh, another
yeah,
another thing also, I want to talk about is like, going graduating from engineering school. So when I got my, first job, I was probably pretty black and white. In engineering, so like either you got it or you didn't, right? So so that I approach to business problems, from that aspect, black and white. And then quickly I learned it is not about, black and white in
right.
real life. So you
Hmm.
got to be open-minded. There's a wide range of, gray area. And also I tell the, young engineers, even if you have the best solution in the world, if people don't use it, it's useless.
Good point.
So you got to be open-minded, and you got to, approaching the people in a very respectful way. And then you got to convince them to use the tool. You know what I'm saying? So that's another thing I would say to young James as well.
And that's yeah, no, I think that's an important point. I think we I'll use me. I definitely did not recognize what I had, and
Mhm.
Fortunately, along the way, I had some good people, some good leaders who helped me see, who encouraged me, who influenced me, who gave me that fire my self confidence up a little bit, right? And allowed me to go, yeah, I belong in this space. I can do this, and I'm supposed to, right? And so that's all part of it. But I think that's part of the again. I don't begrudge the fact that I didn't know these things sooner.
Right,
I
right.
very much appreciate the path I had to go on because it was my path. I had to go through the things I had to go through to understand who I truly am. And so now I stand here going, yeah, I'm unstoppable, I'm powerful, let's go, right? Because
Right.
I needed that journey, if you will.
Right. And also you hit the, another, key point is, along the, my journey, and I had, fantastic leaders, and they recognize my, capability and then pick me and put
Mhm.
it into a role. And obviously I did well, and then next assignment, etc. But like, you know, I still amazed that they recognize my capability and then pick me for the, role.
Right.
So I appreciate that, but that's, another, leadership, aspect, right? So you got to recognize people's, strength and then pick that individual for the certain role and develop them. So.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. Jim, this is very key. And again, I love the work and I love the very honest approach that you've taken with this and taking your own personal reflections. And again, reflection is a big part of this. For listeners who wanted to explore a more audacious life approach, are there any sort of specific tools or resources that maybe you recommend?
So I think not the tool, and again, like there are, like books and other resources in out there, just experiencing it more. But one thing also I want to point out is, have, mentors and sponsors, and they will help you go through the leadership, path. So there are distinction between sponsors and mentors, right? So mentors basically coaches to help you outside in the game. Sponsors actually pick you, put into the game. So mentors, great, so you can learn from them, but also along the way, show your capability, and then sponsors will put you in the game. So you need, that kind of support along the way as well. But just go out there, do extra work, and then people will recognize you for that. So,
Love it. I love it. Something I often ask a lot of guests on the podcast when we talk about, audacious living is what does it mean to you personally?
audacious living again, take chances, and be courageous, and do go beyond your range of your life, right? But one caution is it shouldn't be um, like you don't do it blindly, you know what I'm saying? So
Sure.
you know what I'm saying? So you don't do that like, without purpose, right? So you got to have, purpose. So one thing I would say is you got to understand what good looks like. So you have a goal, you got to know what good looks like, and then
Hmm.
be audacious. But then without that, it can be very dangerous, right? So
Yes.
audacious, past means, just take chances, but you got to know what good looks like. You head that way. So.
Yeah, no, I love it. No, really, really do. And again, we encourage it on this podcast quite regularly and openly, and it's something that we want more people to take and really be serious about that. Again, we're talking within the leadership context and the work that you've done in your book, but I think it applies universally. Doesn't matter what role you're in, doesn't matter what you do. One of my pillar beliefs that anyone can be a leader, right? So
Mhm.
that's all part of that too. So Audacity certainly has a role to play in regardless of what sphere you're in or what circumstance you're in. Audacity can play a key role. For our listeners that wanted to connect with you directly, James, or learn more about the work that you do, where can we send them?
Yeah, so the I've got my account on LinkedIn. So I typically share my thoughts on leadership and life on LinkedIn. So you can connect me on the LinkedIn, and then you can directly send me a message, and I'll do my best to share my thoughts on whatever questions you've got.
Gotcha.
So I really appreciate the all of these in the conversations and stuff.
Sure.
So
They're so important. Now, I know one last thing I'm going to ask you about, and I know, your book, the leader's soul. It's a leader, the leader's soul. There's 52 reflections. Is there a favorite one for you that stands out in terms of a leadership lesson or one that's personally important to you?
so there are actually not all about their leadership. There are
Okay.
three stories about purely my personal aspects. But actually the best one is about my daughter and when she was born, and we got married late in our lives, and it took us, a few years to have a baby. And that moment, and I wrote that in a piece, that's the best one. And then another one is about my mom. And then third is about the nature. Stop and look at nature. So those three are very personal stories.
Yeah.
And again, those are the very close to my heart.
Very good, very good. Well, we're going to encourage our listeners to connect with you directly. And again, we'll give a shot there. It's the Leader's Soul, 52 Reflections for Unlocking Your Inner Leader. James, thank you for doing this today. This has been a delightful conversation. And congratulations. First time author, right? So
Yeah,
congratulations.
first time. Yeah, right.
Congratulations on the book. That's a big deal. And thank you for being a guest on the Audacious Living Podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. And maybe I visit, Toronto to see you. So,
By all means, yeah, look me up. Yeah, we'll connect. We'll connect offline here, and by all means, if you're in town, let me know. We'll connect.
all right. Thank you so much.
All right. I'm back. We are here on the podcast. Much thanks and appreciation goes out to James for being here. In our chat today, he eloquently shared his belief that the essence of leadership lies in recognizing and nurturing the potential in others. He described how developing future leaders requires intentionality and guidance from experienced professionals, emphasizing that this is not merely a responsibility, but more so an opportunity to create a lasting impact. As we reflected on the importance of emotional intelligence, James astutely highlighted how strong relationships within teams are built on trust and understanding. If I were to think about one of the most profound insights that he offered, it was really about the power of reflection. It's so critical. And James believes that, take that time to reflect on our personal experiences can lead to significant growth opportunities. And something that he encouraged us all to view is our mistakes, view them as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. And it's really easy to think that they hinder us, but actually they can aid us and excel us if we approach it properly. And really what that does is, again, reinforces the idea that every misstep carries a lesson waiting to be unearthed. What I personally loved about this interview with James was his genuine passion. You could feel it. Oh, it was so strong. And the fact that he cares about helping young professionals navigate their paths. His commitment to leadership and mentorship is truly inspiring. And it's clear that he is dedicated to fostering the next generation of leaders. I encourage you to connect with James directly. He's certainly accessible, and you can find him on LinkedIn, where he oftentimes shares valuable insights on leadership and personal growth. His contact details, of course, as always, we'll include them in the show notes below, so feel free to definitely reach out to him. Additionally, James does have a special offer for our listeners, and I'd encourage you to check out his book. Once again, it's The Leader's Soul, and it provides a wealth of reflections and practical advice for anyone looking to unlock or unearth that inner leader. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for joining us on another edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, I encourage you to like, follow, subscribe, or share this podcast with friends and family if you haven't already done so. Of course, this helps continue to grow our community of audacious individuals. Now, as we wrap up, I would encourage you to remember that, just like, a sailor needs the right tools to navigate the ocean, you too have the power within to steer your life in the direction that you desire. Embrace your potential, learn from your experiences, and let your audacity shine. Until next time, keep living boldly, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.